Welcome back to the Time Vault, your portal to the most incredible stories from history. Today, we're rolling out one of the most iconic and misunderstood machines of the Second World War, the M4 Sherman tank. Was it a death trap, a war winner, or something in between? Let's peel back the armor and find out. When the United States entered World War II, it needed a reliable, mass-producible medium tank, and it needed it fast. The answer was the M4 Sherman. Named after the American Civil War general William Tecumseh Sherman, this tank became the workhorse of the Allied forces, serving not just with the U.S. Army and Marines, but also with the British, Canadian, Free French, Polish, and even the Soviet Red Army. So, what made the Sherman so special? First and foremost, its design was brilliantly simple and reliable. It was powered by a radial aircraft engine, which, while a bit unusual for a tank, was powerful and, crucially, something American industry was already great at producing. This meant the Sherman had good mobility for its time. Its mechanical reliability was legendary. While German tanks like the Panther and Tiger were complex, over-engineered machines prone to breaking down, the Sherman just kept going. If a Sherman did break down, its straightforward design meant it could often be repaired right on the battlefield, sometimes in a matter of hours. This reliability meant more tanks were available for combat more of the time, a huge strategic advantage. Another key feature was its stabilized gun. The Sherman was one of the first tanks to feature a vertical gun stabilizer. This allowed the gunner to keep the main cannon relatively steady while the tank was moving over rough terrain. It wasn't perfect, but it gave Sherman crews a significant advantage, allowing them to fire on the move with a better chance of hitting their target than most of their adversaries. It was a game-changing piece of technology that gave Allied tankers a crucial edge in mobile engagements. Let's talk about production. The sheer number of Shermans built is staggering. Over 49,000 M4s rolled off the assembly lines. To put that in perspective, Germany built fewer than 6,000 Panther tanks and only about 1,300 Tigers. America's industrial might churned out Shermans at an incredible rate. This quantity has a quality all its own. Approach meant the Allies could absorb combat losses and still press the attack. There was almost always another Sherman ready to fill the gap. But now we have to address the controversy: the Sherman's armor and armament. Early models were equipped with a 75mm main gun. This was a fantastic all-around weapon in 1942 and 1943. It could effectively engage most German tanks of the period and fired a very potent high-explosive shell, which was perfect for supporting infantry by knocking out machine gun nests, anti-tank guns, and fortifications. Remember, tanks spend most of their time fighting things other than other tanks. However, as the war progressed, German tank technology advanced rapidly. The introduction of the heavily armored Panther and Tiger tanks presented a serious challenge. The Sherman's 75mm gun struggled to penetrate their thick frontal armor, except at very close ranges. This is where the Sherman earned its grim nicknames. To counter this, the design was constantly upgraded. The most significant improvement was the introduction of the more powerful 70mm high-velocity gun. While it had a less effective high-explosive round, its armor-piercing capabilities were much better, giving Sherman crews a fighting chance against the German big cats. The British took this a step further with their own brilliant modification, the Sherman Firefly. They managed to fit their incredibly potent 17-pounder anti-tank gun into the Sherman's turret. The Firefly was a true tank killer and was specifically hunted by German panzer crews. The Sherman's armor was also a point of contention. It was adequate for the early war, but was vulnerable to later German anti-tank weapons. Stories of Shermans catching fire easily were common. This was partly due to the way ammunition was stored inside. Once designers identified this problem, They introduced a solution called wet stowage, surrounding the ammunition racks with a water and antifreeze mixture. This drastically reduced the chance of catastrophic fires and significantly increased crew survivability. One of the Sherman's most underrated strengths was its crew-focused design. Compared to many other tanks of the era, the Sherman was relatively spacious and ergonomically sound. It had a five-man crew: commander, gunner, loader, driver, and co-driver, bow gunner. The hatches were large, making it easier for the crew to bail out if the tank was hit. This focus on survivability, combined with the wet stowage upgrade, meant that even if a Sherman was knocked out, its experienced crew often survived to fight another day in a new tank. In a war of attrition, keeping your veteran crews alive was just as important as keeping your tanks in the fight. The versatility of the M4 chassis was another massive advantage. It was used as a base for countless specialized vehicles. There were Sherman duplex drive, or DD tanks that could swim, allowing them to be launched offshore for amphibious assaults like D-Day. There were Sherman crab flail tanks that used rotating chains to clear minefields. There were tank recovery vehicles, bulldozer tanks for clearing obstacles, and even rocket-launching Shermans called the Calliope. This adaptability meant the Sherman could tackle almost any problem the battlefield threw at it. So, how should we remember the M4 Sherman? It wasn't the most powerful or heavily armored tank of the war. It couldn't go toe-to-toe with a Tiger in a head-on duel and expect to win. But warfare isn't a one-on-one duel. The Sherman was a brilliant strategic weapon. It was reliable, adaptable, produced in overwhelming numbers, and crewed by brave soldiers who learned how to use teamwork and superior numbers to overcome a technologically superior foe. It was the right tank at the right time. The Sherman represented the American warfighting philosophy, overwhelming the enemy with industrial production, sound logistics, and dependable, adaptable technology. It was the tool that, in the hands of Allied soldiers, helped grind down the Axis war machine and achieve victory. It wasn't a perfect machine, but it was a war-winning one. What do you think? Was the Sherman a hero or a liability? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. We love hearing your perspectives on these incredible pieces of history. Thanks for joining us here at the Time Vault. If you enjoyed this journey into the past, please hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and ring the bell so you never miss an episode. We'll see you next time.